Hey folks, welcome to the Undead Gaming Cast, our monthly podcast where we talk about video games, the industry, and stuff and or things. Welcome. Joining us, as always, Mr. SingularityJosh. Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
And of course, our two wonderful special guests. We've got Valdrianth, or Rosie. How you doing?
I've been up for about an hour and a half, and I'm on my second cup of coffee, so that's just take that into consideration.
Going forward,
in that amount of time.
That's at least our first disclaimer for the show today.
Yeah.
And joining us as well is Mr. GoldKarat. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very, very well. Very, very well. So before we sort of jump into things, I suppose if we let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit, sort of what do you do, and then we'll go from there. So, Rosie?
So, hi, I'm SingularityJosh.
Josh, everyone knows who you are. Get out of here. Instant ban.
You go ahead, Rosie.
All right. Well, I was about to say, are we gonna play rock paper scissors for this? We're gonna wrestle with the I warn you, I am a velociraptor. Hi everyone. My name is Rosie Raid. You can find me on the internet as Valdrianth. We've been having this conversation. I've officially had that username for about 20 years now, so we're just showing my age here as an elder millennial. As far as what I do on the internet, I have my own Twitch channel where I am primarily a TTRPG streamer. I produce for my friends and for myself, and we play games together. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. So, Gold.
I'm from the UK. My name is GoldKarat Kyle, and I do a variety of games. I also have a Twitch channel where we play a variety of games, and we actually like to review the games together. So I give my community like a little form to fill in, and they will give their opinions, and then I compile all that together in a YouTube video giving a review for those games. So at the moment we're playing Ghost of Tsushima, which is super fun. I freaking love that game. You guys should definitely play it if you haven't already. And also, I like to get like super hype on my stream, and I could give a brief demonstration. I don't know which one. They're all like really
Just absolutely the most ostentatious one you can possibly choose.
ostentatious. What does that even mean? That's a huge word. Is that like the most over the top?
Just the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in your life.
Ridiculous. I don't want it to go on for too long, so we'll just do this one, I guess. This is my favorite. Personally. Yes! Let's dance!
Amazing. This rules.
You guys don't need me. I'm gonna leave.
I think we'll all leave.
This is it, man.
This is GoldKarat show.
Bye.
Welcome,
Oh
ladies
God.
and gentlemen, to the GoldKarat show.
Do you know
Oh
what?
my God, I
I
need to
feel
stop.
bad.
Hoyle
For,
just
Sorry,
absolutely
bro.
ruining us there.
I feel bad for the people later in the week that are going to be listening to this when this goes out on iTunes and Spotify. Because they're going to be like, what the
No
fuck is
context.
going on? No context at all. Come watch the VOD.
Of course,
YouTube.com.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're on Spotify now. We're a big boy podcast.
Hell yeah.
Oh my word.
Oh my God, but the cameras will just keep on doing their thing. I can't stop it
It's
now.
all
It's out
good.
of my hands.
Incredible.
So welcome to the Undead GoldKarat show, where we talk about video games, industry stuff, and things. If you're new, welcome. Let's give you a rundown of how we do things on the show. So usually we start off by talking about what we've been playing, what we've been up to this month in video games, before we swiftly move on to our news topic or news topics of the month. We got some heavy ones today, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But there will be a mild disclaimer beforehand. And then we usually wrap up the show by shamelessly self-promoting ourselves and telling you where you can find us on the internet and help support us. So I suppose, Josh, what have you been up to? What have you been playing this month?
There's been a lot going on this month, so I haven't really played like much in the way of variety. I played a little more Last of Us, which like I'm still loving. And primarily I've been playing two things. I've been playing Payday 2, which is a blast from the past. Came out like the better part of 10 years ago now.
Yeah,
And it's nice
at least
because
10
like
years old, isn't it?
yeah, a mutual friend of ours, Minty, and I have been like playing that, and we've had like some other people joining us. So actually having like 4-man squads and like working out how to like rob a bank and like each of us having like our own speciality, like proper like heist shit. It's been really really good. That game's real good. Like I know it's old, but I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you have people to play with. And the other thing I've been playing is a game that I kind of have a bit of not an on-off relationship with, but I always kind of play it relentlessly for a while and then come back to and stop and then not play it for 6 months. Is No Man's Sky. And I've also been playing that in multiplayer as well. And it's just fun, just like exploring and whooping around space and going through black holes and looking for snacky ships and building bases and that kind of thing. So short and sweet for me, really. Aside from that, I've just been playing D&D and that kind of thing, and that's pretty much me.
Awesome. Who wants to take the floor next?
Are you pointing to me, Rosie? Oh, okay, cool. I can't tell because the order isn't the same for us, and you just pointed downwards, and I was like, So I've been playing, as I said, Ghost of Tsushima. Absolutely loving that game.
I really want to get on that game. I think I'm just going to pick it up this week at some point. And
you definitely should. It's like it's basically Assassin's Creed mixed with not Valhalla, sorry, with For Honor. Basically, it feels like that set in Japan, and it's like so gorgeous. Probably the most beautiful open world game I've ever played, and the photo mode is just so good. I've never taken so many photos in a game like ever. And also we recently finished Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm currently doing a review of that game, and then before that it was The Last of Us, which you mentioned, Josh, and like we could have a whole podcast on that game as well, to be honest.
Honestly, dude, like Rob will tell you, the second anybody gets me started about The Last of Us, it's just days and days and days and days and days. It's my favorite, like one of my favorite video games of all time. So
how far are you through the game?
I'm not too far through the second one. I've just kind of done all of the like TV station stuff. So it's probably about. I'm also one of these relentless people that like I'm terrible when I play open world games because I'm just like explore all the things.
I'm the same.
So like I think I'm probably like if I just played straight, I'm probably 8 hours in, but by the time I've done all the dicking around, like 14.
Okay.
So yeah, I've just kind of finished up the TV station. So
I'd be curious to know your opinion on the game once you've like fully finished it.
Because yeah, like I'm really enjoying it.
Well,
so
hey,
far.
we haven't done many of them. We've only done one so far, and we plan to do more of them. But we do bonus levels of the podcast, which are separate audio only, extra bonus shows that we do. So hey, if you
like
guys want to get together and hyper focus on one thing. So if you want to get together and do a Last of Us with this Gold, that would be
100% be up for that, because I did say to my community, I've done a review of the game, but it was non-spoiler, and I did say I want to do a podcast on it. But I mean, I'm completely happy to come on yours and talk about it, because I've just been itching to talk about it, and I really want someone that dislikes that game to also come on the podcast.
That'd be interesting.
It's controversial, like. It's weird that you look at Metacritic and it's like 90 whatever, and then the user score was 4 point whatever, but that was mainly because people were review bombing when it first came out.
Was the review as a result of like the first big like revelation in the game? Was that basically they just didn't like?
Well, that was leaked before, and most people, because people were review bombing it before they had even played the game. Like, well, that is what review bombing is. And they just saw the leaks and were like, nope, I don't want this to happen. Their worst game ever, whatever.
I had a little.
Do y'all know the streamer Pleasantly Twisted?
I think I've heard of them.
She would be
Yeah.
really good for someone who like dislikes the game because she has some interesting commentary on it. Like I hang out in her stream a lot. I have not played the game yet, so I don't have like a real opinion to form on something. I just listen to other people's opinions. I was like, that makes sense. But like she has an interesting commentary on how it represents like
certain groups.
Certain groups of people. And by that I mean us queers. So there's that.
Us darn queers, man.
Us damn queers, man. Like, so there's that. So if you're looking for somebody to possibly like talk discourse with that, like I think she would be actually really
That would be awesome. Yeah, I know Pleasantly
Guess
Twisted.
we'll set that up then. We'll set that up.
Yeah.
I've completely avoided The Last of Us 2 as best I can. Like, that's why also I've not come onto any of your streams of it, Gold, because I'm trying to spoiler away from it, basically. But when I did have a little gander on Metacritic, the nonsense I saw from those user reviews were literally, SJW propaganda, you know, women in my video get like nonsense, absolute bullshit nonsense that needs to just be like, get out of this.
There are those
community.
people as well that are just like stupid and like, we can't have lesbians in our games. We can't, you know, strong.
Ellie fucking rules, by the way. Ellie is like my favorite, like Ellie and like my two favorite like video game characters ever are Ellie and Aloy.
And
so,
also,
like,
how did you not play the first game?
Aloy was my wife.
Also, how did you not play the first Last of Us and realize that Ellie was a lesbian?
Also, like the first Last of Us DLC, Ellie is explicitly gay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like some people missed out on the DLC, so they might have missed that and been like, "Why is she lesbian?"
Ellie fucking rules, man. I'll fight anybody that doesn't like
her.
Ellie.
Yeah. It's funny because I played the whole game, so I'm trying to hold myself back. So
I don't give a shit about spoilers. I know pretty much all the spoilers for The Last of Us. I'm like one of those few people who it doesn't ruin a gaming experience for me. Like
I like to be surprised like naturally, and that's why I always refrain from like watching spoilers, and especially now because I stream. Before even before I would care because like I want the game to like hit me, you know.
I have a lot of emotions, so things just hit me regardless. My husband is in chat right now, so he can tell you. Like I just cry over like the most ridiculous things.
The Last of Us, I think, has always been a really good game for like smashing you in the feels. Like the opening like sequence of like the first game has made me cry so many times. Like I just can't not just weep at it. Every time.
It's one of those games that like the original Last of Us. It's one of those games that like as someone who I have a film background, that's where I come from. That just happens to love video games. So it was definitely one of those games that made like us writers and us film producers and stuff kind of re-look at how storytelling can be done with an interactive medium like video games and how cinematic it can be. So it's the first one is one of my favorite games.
It definitely helped pave the way and set a standard for what story-driven games can be, and even it sounds really pretentious, but looking at games or respecting games as like an art medium, if that makes sense, because I mean they are like
I agree.
So it's
there are definitely like keystone games in that evolution, and like I think the first Last of Us is probably the most recent one that sort of just like changed the game and how we look at gaming. That was definitely a major one. The other is Final Fantasy VII. But hi, I love that game.
I love the remake.
Yeah.
Everybody in this podcast loves Final Fantasy, and I've never played a Final Fantasy game.
Man, sir, come on.
I mean, that's
anytime it gets brought up, I'm like,
it is fair enough. It's my second Final Fantasy game, and I love Kingdom Hearts, as you can see from my poster. So it's kind of weird that I wasn't into Final Fantasy. Or
weird as well, actually, because I really dig Kingdom Hearts as well.
You would love Final Fantasy.
I know a lot of people who have played Kingdom Hearts and have never played Final Fantasy. Like, no offense, children, but it's usually Gen Z. And it makes a lot of sense because Kingdom Hearts came out around, it's 2001. It was actually the first game I bought for my PS2. And again, I also love Kingdom Hearts. I, at one time, had a Kingdom Hearts tattoo. It's covered up now. I got it. I was very mad at a boy and a girl, and I just needed to get inked because it was a therapeutic thing for me to get tattoos. So I went to a shop, paid $60, got the nobody symbol on my collarbone. I was 21 at the time, and then by the time I was 25 and I went back to school, there were just a lot of people who were like, it's Texas, so it's hot, so my titties are out, right? But a lot of people just wouldn't leave me alone because of it. And here's the thing, it's not my only video game tattoo. I have an Assassin's Creed, I have a Pokemon, I have no Kami tattoo. It's not my only one. And I don't mind getting comments about my tattoos, but like most people move on from that. Kingdom Hearts fans did not move on from past the nice tattoo. And there was just a point in my life where I was like, can you just leave me alone?
Just
And
go
so
away.
my beautiful husband helped me pay to get that covered up with a majestic orca diving into my chest instead.
Nice. That sounds great. I want a tattoo so bad, but I just don't know what to get.
Whatever you want.
Well, that's the thing. I can never like decide, finalize on like what I want.
Just jump into it, fam. Just go and get like a know nothing splash in a weird spot, just to, I guess, like break the ink. I don't know like what the term is called, because it does become like one of these things where it's like you get your first one, and after you get over the fact that it hurts, and when it heals, it's disgusting. But like after like all of that goes, it's just kind of like it's time for a next one. I haven't gotten tattooed in about 5 years because I'm poor. So this,
they are expensive for sure.
If anyone wants to just donate to my tattoo fund, that'd be really
The funny thing about tattoos is that it's like your first one, you're like, oh, like it's always like meaning and all this kind of stuff, and then like you get like 2, and then you're just like, that's cool. Like and then you just go from there. So you just get all kinds of manners of ridiculous things.
Yeah. Mine aren't too ridiculous. The majority of them are video game tattoos. The other one is the orca, and I have a tattoo that I have no idea what I'm going to do with, because I officially left Catholicism, and it's like a Catholic medal that's on my other wrist. It's still cool. Like, people ask me what it is, and I just tell them that it's an exorcism, which is true, because like the Latin on it is what Catholic priests would use for prayer for exorcisms. So it's cool. It's got holy water in it, so it's cool. But also at the same time, I love the Catholic Church. And so I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, man, why can't I cover up this thing that's just going to be black circles on my forearm for a while? So I might have to actually get proper removal.
Damn.
Yeah.
Is removal as painful, or like
it's worse than what I understand?
It's worse, really.
Worse. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So it's a literal laser, isn't it? It's like
do you like just burn the skin for it to heal back?
Yeah.
And get rid of it.
Essentially.
Kind of, but I think they're like more like super. It's not like they're like burns that would like leave a scar, because they basically like it's almost like they kind of like bleach the ink out a little bit.
Ooh.
That makes sense. Like they kind of like mess the pigment so much that the pigment kind of fades away.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But like, and obviously, like, so things like black and like red, which are like really high pigmentation, are like very, very, very painful to get like removed.
Yeah, and mine's black, where it's black and gray washed. So, otherwise, I think I just might get a dinosaur. Two things that I don't have yet on my body is dinosaurs, which are my favorite things in the world, and something Final Fantasy related, which I just want like a big, beautiful pinup of Tifa just on my thigh.
Ooh.
Just have wife on my thigh. So
Yeah,
it's just
Tifa's amazing,
yeah.
best girl.
Mhm.
She is best girl. Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert: she survives.
Damn.
Wow.
Well, you know, like we were looking for the
Listen,
segue.
I've
We
been
were looking for the
involved.
segue. We were
Yeah.
looking for the segue, and there it is.
There it is.
That is a
There it
segue.
is. I mean, the game's what, 30 years old now, is it? Is it 30 years
Yeah.
old? Oh my god.
1997 is
Yeah.
the original.
23 years old.
I try to forget that I know that spoiler, but it's like unavoidable.
You can't avoid it now. Yeah.
Like,
like,
as somebody
everywhere.
who's never played, as somebody who's never played a Final Fantasy game, even I know that spoiler.
Yeah.
Like that's just how like culturally like
Well,
wide
to
it
be
is.
fair, I didn't know if Tifa lived or not. I just knew someone important died, you know.
But doesn't everyone get that in their like, you're a gamer now player pack through the post? I mean, like, I'm a gamer, and you get sent through the post, and it's like, by the
I
way,
guess.
Aerith dies.
Yeah.
Here's what a
He
controller looks
dubs
like.
and dies.
There's like a leeway on like when it's okay to tell spoilers. I think 23
Yeah.
years.
23
I think
years
it
is probably
fine now.
That-
probably good.
But
like,
the thing
the
is, it's being
only-
remade, you know. So,
Yeah.
like, for people
I mean, that's
who
the
don't
thing.
want to
Things
know,
can change, right?
yeah. They've hinted that they are going to change things. So,
I'm very-
I mean,
I have
That's a
lots
really
of-
big. That's actually a really good point. Like, does the I don't want to spoil shit timer reset if the game gets remade?
I feel like it does because,
So
like, I
the
played.
spoiler.
Hmm.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was gonna say I played Resident Evil and I knew nothing about those remakes 2 and 3. And if someone told me what happened in the originals, I kind of would have been pissed because like I'm playing it now. If
Yeah.
it's a remake, I feel like or it's relevant to not speak up about it anymore.
because you never know, Aerith might turn around and slap a bitch.
Or
That'd be
maybe
so
somebody
funny.
would
It's just
say-
Aerith just kills Sephiroth just there and then.
maybe eat that with a
Like,
chair.
Just
She's like, no,
deletes him.
There is a lot. Man. So the way that I kind of see this, one, if somebody is playing a game blind for the first time and you know it, like it's just fucking rude. Okay, to like spoil it for them. That's just. Yeah,
It annoys
just
me
don't
so
do
much.
that.
I think in a
Etiquette.
specific,
It's
I think in
common
specific
etiquette.
conversation, it that is totally true. But like, also if I went on Twitter now and I'm just like, Earth dies in Final Fantasy, it's like it's not
Like-
coming as a shock to anyone.
Yeah,
It's like, but if
obviously,
you're
like, in this
directly in a conversation with
it's
someone, it is
fine.
rude.
Yeah, in this conversation, it's obviously fine. But like, if I go into someone purposely, like I see someone that's playing either the original or the remake, and I just go in there specifically to talk about Aerith dying. Like,
Yeah, that makes you a
it's-
dick. That makes you
it
a
makes
dick.
you a dick.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that being said, I would love to get into like the crate because I've been involved in the Final Fantasy VII fandom since before Tumblr. Like I am a live journal OG, so I am like deep into this lore to like the point where it's like Final Fantasy 7 and 10 are totally fucking like canonly connected to each other. Like there is just so much theory I have because I'm not going to spoil the Final Fantasy VII remake ending or like what's going on with that. Like we all know there's hints of change, but like the theory of what certain elements in that game like if you know the entire compilation of like the entire canon because it's not being erased from the remake, it's all still like very existing in the same timeline.
Or just like fleshing it out a bit more
it's not even
possibly
it's not
can.
even that, it's not even so much fleshing it out, it's legitimately some Kingdom Hearts bullshit. Let's just go there.
Yeah, it's
like,
Tetsuya
it's some Tetsuya Nomura bullshit is what's happening.
Yeah.
So hi, my name is Rosie. I have lots of feelings about Final Fantasy VII.
Hi, I'm Rosie, and I'm a Final Fantasy VII addict.
A little bit. Like my husband is in the chat right now, and so he can attest just how gay I am for Final Fantasy VII. But yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, is that it? Gold? Is that all you've been playing this month?
Yeah, I mean, I like to now, if I'm going to review a game, I will wholeheartedly just focus on it. And that game Ghost of Tsushima is large, like, and I'm doing every side quest, every collectible as well. I want to start doing that stuff more offline and the main story stuff on stream, just so I can get through it quicker.
Yeah, that's what I try and get into the habit of doing as well. I was doing that when I was playing like Spider-Man and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Just, you know, because I obviously, when you get really into a game but you're playing it on stream, you don't want to sort of play it, but you want to keep playing it, but you're like, I'm not streaming though. So if it's like a big game like that, then I think it's just biggest excuse to just keep playing it, because you're like, oh, I'm not doing the story, so it's fine. We'll save all that main shit for the live stream.
I played like 50 hours of Horizon Zero Dawn in a week, because I was like, well, I'm playing this game on stream, and I was just like, god damn, well, I guess I got to do this now. So I platinumed the game within a week, and I streamed every second of it.
Oh my god, wow.
Literally, I would just sit there for like
non-stop.
Yeah, I was like a lifeless husk at the end of it.
It's a mad week.
It's a very fun game. That game is very good.
It's my favorite. Like, this generation Horizon has been like my favorite.
Horizon fucking rules.
Looking forward to the second one.
Hell yeah. Awesome. So, Rosie, what have you been playing? What have you been doing?
I do have a name. What am I playing? So, like I said before, I'm primarily a TTRPG streamer, so you're really just not going to see me play video games anymore. I started off doing video games. And then it was kind of like how Josh was saying, like, it was getting to the point where it became a chore to stream and play video games. Like, it just didn't want to be my job. That being said, I still play a lot of video games just by myself. I am mostly over my Animal Crossing addiction, so let's just throw that out there. Like, I've only touched it like every 3 days compared to every day, so there's that.
Sounds like you're lying to yourself here, that you've got over the addiction.
I did, because I started playing Persona 5 Royale, which I finally got.
Gold's
and the
farming
only
on
reason,
it now.
Huh?
Gold's farming on it now.
I'm playing Animal Crossing right now. Grinding away.
Just
It is very addictive.
My husband is like, 1 week I'm clean from Horizon. So playing Persona 5 Royale right now.
Love P5.
I've been waking up early in the morning, because sometimes it's the only time I have to play on my PlayStation. And then as far as like everything else goes, I'm working on like my 900th hour of Jurassic World Evolution. Don't judge me. Listen, I have to beat all of my times in building parks in challenge mode. And the thing is that it's not a secret to anyone. I live in Canada. I live in Vancouver, and I have a chronic pain disease. Mama does weed, okay? Like, and sometimes there's just certain games that just cater to that hyperfixation and that hyper focus sometimes that happens, that doesn't punish you for not paying attention. Like if I was to play like a real video game, like Assassin's Creed or something, like it would just not work. So working on Persona 5 Royale, I probably beat like 1 or 2 big games a year. I'm not a very fast gamer. I still have not beaten or even started Red Dead 2. Technically, I've started The Witcher, but I never got past the tutorial. So I bye.
He's out.
Like,
he's out. The undead gamer is gone.
Like, honestly, just like rounds of applause for those of you
who have finished.
Who just don't know. No, because I ribbed Rob for so long for every single time that the word Witcher was mentioned. He'd immediately just like.
So to be fair, when it came out, I was still living in Texas, and my husband bought it. He wasn't my husband at the time. He was just like
some dude.
He was my house boyfriend. We were in Texas at the time, and he bought it. And then when his visa ran out in the States and he had to go back to Canada, he took the game with him. Despite the fact he didn't technically have a PS4, because we have a gaming computer, but we're fat and lazy, so we like sitting on our couch and playing on our console sometimes. so he took the game with him. So I never like by the time like that came around where I lived with him again in Canada, it was just sort of like, oh, that's a thing that's on the list of like, and the list of games just keeps growing because I'm a collector. I have games from like my NES days that I still just have not beaten, but I just have because they're mine. Like,
Yeah, I definitely got a few of those.
Yeah.
As well.
And I mean, like, we don't even want to start the Steam library. Like, let's like.
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
my Steam library is a desolate wasteland of unplayed games.
Oh yeah, especially like.
Humble Bundle is literally the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Well, especially being a streamer, right? Like you get gifted like your wish list.
Yeah, true.
One like and like some people, like when I was playing video games, were gifting me stuff that they wanted to see me play, and some of it wasn't like for like Dragon Quest 9, I think was the last one that came out, or 11. I don't know. I can't count Roman numerals despite the fact that I play a lot of Final Fantasy. But it was the latest Dragon Quest that came out, and I still haven't started that, despite the fact it was gifted to me, because it's just like I just don't want to start something so big right now when I'm playing other things. And I would like that, and there are some there are some games that require one computer to play on and then another computer to stream, just because the amount of like RAM they take, and I again am broke and do not have that kind of setup. And I think
I
that's
know those feels.
That it's that's definitely the ones. So yeah, as far as video games goes, that's what I'm playing. As far as TTRPGs go, I have like 4 Dungeons and Dragons campaigns right now. I think 2 which I DM. I'm just thinking.
People in the TTRPG are crazy. Just for context, Carrot. Like people you play 2 games? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I know people who play like 8.
Yeah, I reckon about 8. So like I DM 2 5e games. We just wrapped up a Pathfinder 2nd edition game. For now, I am about to wrap up a Blades in the Darks game. I'm playing a Dragon Age TTRPG on Saturdays. I play a mass game, and I started to run. All right, we're about to get into this, y'all. I started to run a skin for Blades in the Dark by 4. You can follow them at the forefront. They did a skin for Animorphs on Blades in the Dark, and if there is something that affected me more in my life than Final Fantasy VII, it's Animorphs. Like, that was like the book series that kind of inspired me to start creating. Like, it was my first fanfic.
Aren't they turning that into a film?
They are. Like, it just got like announced, and I'm just like, what? Like, so they're redoing the books into graphic novels. So there's a graphic novels are starting in October. I have that pre-ordered.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for it. And so as soon as and it was kind of weird because it kind of happened with the whole all these announcements sort of happened around when J.K. Rowling kind of revealed she was a TERF. So then everyone starts talking about Animorphs, because Animorphs is probably about 5 or 6 years older than Harry Potter. And so there's this resurgence in the fandom in the past couple of months. I was like, holy shit, people know about my secret.
Animorphs rules, man. Animorphs fucking rules.
What?
Never seen this or heard of it. I just
never heard of Animorphs. Animorphs rules, dude.
Man, they had the most insane book covers.
Book covers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at them and I'm like, what?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there was a TV show in the 90s, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a kids show as well.
Yeah.
There's a
which was garbage.
The thing was it was so brutal as well. The one thing that stuck to me about Animorphs, one of the things I remember is as soon as they get to the powers, they're like, right, you have a time limit on how long you can stay. Otherwise, you're just stuck. One dude just decides that he wants to be a hawk for a bit, and just is like, I don't want to change back, and he's just stuck as a hawk forever. And I'm just what happens to his parents and stuff? His parents are like, the kid has run away. Oh my god, he's gone.
apparently he didn't read all of those books because the
Not
parent
all of them.
of that one child was the alien that gave them the morphing ability
Oh,
first
cool.
of all, and like his mom ended up going like insane, and so he got like switched back and forth. But like this is like a book that's like made for 10-year-olds. Like I started reading them in the 5th grade. I was about 10, 11 years old, and like the main characters are like between 12 and 16, but like they start at 12 and like they end the series at 16, and when it comes down to it, it's like it's a bunch of kids and they turn into animals, woohoo. But it really when it is a war story about child soldiers.
Yeah,
And
it's like savage.
it's like imagine like having like let's say you turn into a grizzly bear and you fight some aliens, and
That's my dream, by the way.
Right.
Like literally, like
and
I got a huge toe over there.
your-
Like I'm a
your
that's my
arm
dream.
gets sliced off or phased off or whatever, like, and the way that like the technology works is it's based on DNA. So like your DNA doesn't store injuries, so when you turn back to yourself, like your body parts come back, and when you turn back to that bear, like it's intact. Like imagine like the trauma of
Like losing your arm
it
for like
takes
Going
on
through
you
that.
mentally
Oh my
of like
God.
constantly like being your body part severed, and like being 12 years old and having that happen to you, sort of thing. So it's all of my D&D characters right now are just like refurbished Animorph fanfic characters that I had when I was 12. So so I'm running this, and I've had with my best friends, and so it's been kind of great to kind of recreate that for us, like especially for me and my best friend, kind of recreating that weird fanfic playground like role play that we had when we were small, and just redoing that in our 30s.
Nothing
It's
wrong with
very
a bit of
That sounds
nostalgic. I
nostalgia.
love
cool.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, if that's it, Rosie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think that's all I'm playing. Too
Awesome.
much. Yeah.
So
Slowpoke can correct me if I'm wrong.
I still haven't found any more time to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm getting frustrated as hell because I just want to play that game. We did finish up Spider-Man DLC, all 3 DLCs, which was dope.
Nice.
Really enjoyed that whole story. Really, really awesome. Just that game's so damn good, and I'm so fucking
I
hyped.
love it.
So fucking
the
hyped for the Miles Morales game.
Yeah.
So
Miles
hyped.
Morales rules, man.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I just thought that was a really nice story, nice sort of wrap up to kind of the stuff that was left unfinished in the main game.
Really? I only played one of the DLCs. I think it was the cat one.
Yeah,
The black
heist.
cat. Or
Yeah.
is it? What's her name? I can't remember.
Black Cat.
Black Cat.
Yeah.
It is Black Cat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not to be confused with Catwoman, whose name I completely forgot in the stream when I was talking about Marvel and DC.
Selena Kyle?
Yeah. Catwoman, Selena Kyle. Yeah. So if you get a chance to play the other 2, do it. Like they're real fucking good. It's just like I said, it's just more Spider-Man, which can't complain about.
Which is always good generally.
Absolutely.
I still feel weird about DLC, honestly, because I'm still very much in the mindset of old times where DLC was not a thing, and you would just buy the game, play the game, and that's it. And it's I feel like some game companies can feel like they leave games somewhat half finished, like Kingdom Hearts 3, and then they'll sell the DLC as like, sorry, we forgot this here.
Oh, absolutely. Like there are some absolute. I mean, in the last just 10 years, 15 years, there've been some real fucking piss takes
clangers,
with DLC. Yeah. Absolutely. But every now and then you get what DLC used to be, which was essentially expansions of just more story. I mean, I picked up the Game of the Year edition for Spider-Man, so I wasn't sort of paying any extra. But there are certain cases where I think it was absolutely worth it, and I would have been happy to have bought that DLC, like Spider-Man, The Witcher 3's
The Witcher 3, I heard that one's really good.
I mean,
those are like 2 30-hour campaigns in their own right, aren't they? They're like really long.
Yeah, like the last Witcher DLC is they could have sold that as a $60 standalone title all on its own. Like there was enough content in there, and they sold it for like 15 quid. Like it's insane. So I think there are exceptions to the rule, absolutely, but not many exceptions, unfortunately.
Yeah,
which is easy. I mean, I would never buy a season pass. I just don't trust them at all. That's one of the biggest scams in the last 5 years. The season passes.
Unless it's a company I trust, like if The Last of Us 2 had a season pass, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
Or because I just Naughty Dog always blows me away, and that's like one of the few companies.
That's it there. I think a lot of that is down to that word trust, isn't it? It's like, not many people would chance their arm with somebody like EA as far as they could throw them. But like, if you've got a proven track record of like delivering the goods and delivering them really hard, then like, do you know what I mean? So like, like we were talking about Ellie's DLC from The Last of Us 1, like, if there was a couple of those that were kind of little snippets about like, old Joel or Ellie or what, do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I think it's worth the money because the experiences are so like clean cut and so well made.
Yeah.
That like you can justify it. But like half of the time, like you say, it's just like here's all the shit that we didn't actually put in the game to start with. And like I think somebody in the chat was on about like expansion packs versus like DLCs, but like I think the difference between the expansion packs and the DLCs is the fact that like the story like would have been done, like it would have been fully completed in like the main game, and the expansion pass, do you know what I mean? Like you'd have like one complete experience in that game, and then obviously if they wanted to expand upon that in a DLC, like I think like the only thing that I could really think about expansion packs was like lots of strategy games had them, and like they'd have like extra campaigns or like extra like races you could play as or whatever, but like it wasn't just like, oh crap, here's the shit we forgot before, do you know, and cram it in.
I mean, like
that's the difference.
The few sort of like DLCs that I can think of that are really you could really compare to an old school expansion would be, like I've said, The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC
or something,
would be, because that's an entire new area, a huge new map, lots of content to do, but it's all still based on the base game.
Frozen Wilds as well,
like
Frozen
like that.
Wilds,
for Horizon would have been one.
Really, I would argue the Dragon Age Inquisition games as well had.
Dragon Age had some excellent.
I mean, it was mostly
expansions.
Mostly really RPGs and strategy games. I think were really.
Well, those, to be fair, I think RPGs are the ones that kind of like are the ones that people kind of want them for almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah. So but yeah, that I think the Spider-Man DLC worth it. What else have I played? I played picked up a cool little indie game on the PlayStation a couple of weeks back, and me and my partner were playing it. It's called Degrees of Separation by Modus Games, or Modus Games published it, but the developer is Moondrop. So it's a really cool sort of like puzzle platformer game where you play a prince and a princess from sort of different worlds, different kingdoms. One's like a fire world, one's an ice world, and you are kind of brought together, but still in your own separate worlds. It's just really weird to explain this game, but there's like a sort of divide down the screen, like a sort of split screen almost, but you can kind of like move about and with each other.
It looks cool.
But you kind of solve the puzzles by bringing your aspects of the world into the world. So, for example, if there is a body of water, like a little lake that you need to cross, then the ice dude can freeze that, and he can just like waltz across. But if the fire lady is there, then she can't. She has to sort of swim through it, for example. So it's really sort of makes you think about. There's a lot of like environmental sort of puzzles and how to use your sort of different abilities and your heat and ice and all that sort of thing. It's definitely well worth playing. It's like a couch co-op sort of game. You can play it single player as well, and you control both characters. But I think I've explained degrees of separation really fucking poorly. But like, it's I don't know. It's a really cool little puzzle platformer, with a really nice little art style as well. And yeah, it was a good time. We still haven't finished it, but it was a good time. Don't know what to say on it, to be honest. But yeah,
there's a good question in chat. What's the worst DLC you've ever paid for?
Oh my word!
I think I almost, so I made like a rant video about the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC because in hindsight, I do kind of really like that DLC, but it costs like half the full price of the game. And the story that came with it was really an example of like, oh, okay, we're just going to add a bit more context to the end because we left it on a cliffhanger sort of thing. And it's like, that was, I played that and I didn't even get to the extra, they added extra bosses, which I think where the chunk of the value comes from. And I was just so annoyed with that DLC. It was definitely up there as one of the worst I paid for.
Can we just be honest about something?
Mm-hmm.
I was just really annoyed with Kingdom Hearts 3 in general.
I think with the DLC, actually, it's not an awful game. There were some elements that were missing, definitely. I mean, like the fact you didn't even have the Final Fantasy characters in the main game was weird, given that was like one of your selling points throughout basically all the main games.
Let's say also like the Final Fantasy characters and stuff were like a big deal as well, weren't they? They weren't just like minor sort of like throwaway like cameo references. They were actually like substantive, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
And one of the things was like back when the original came out, you had to like, it was such a weird concept for like Disney and Square to make like this JRP, this action RPG together. Like, so it was just sort of like, how are we going to get, and it was Nomura, right? So you same guy has been working
all them zips.
Shit. Yeah, all the time. So it's like, how do you sell this to your Final Fantasy fans, which at the time were a lot of Gen Xers. So like, it was a lot of people who were already like out of high school even. And then the people who were in high school, because I was in high school when Kingdom Hearts came out, I think I was like 15 or 16 years old. And like, how do you sell that? And it's like, oh, clouds in it, squalls in it. Like you have
like poster boy kind of things almost.
Yeah. And so it was just sort of like, to not have them in there was weird, but there was also like I found there was a lot of laziness in the storytelling when it came to the Disney worlds, because it was just like cookie cutting the Disney storyline into Kingdom Hearts, where it's like in the first two games they really tried to get like the Disney worlds to fit into the Kingdom Hearts world, not like they really kind of like, there was just better writing for the first two games, like, and you know, that's not including all of the in-between games. Like, let's be real, that's the other ridiculous thing about this. It's like, I have to buy how many handheld systems just to,
the timeline for Kingdom Hearts is like literally the biggest mess I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's why they had to make those complete collection games basically, because you had to be on like every platform. I was like, wait, so I have to buy 3DS to play Dream Drop Distance, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Well, the biggest one was like, you had to get a Game Boy Advance to play the original Chain of Memories, right?
And Chain of Memories was so integral to the story for Kingdom Hearts 2. I was so confused when I played Kingdom Hearts 2, going from Kingdom Hearts 1. I was like, what is going on?
They pulled an absolute fucking mischief with all that nonsense.
Yeah. It was insane. And then when I eventually did play the full collection, I was like, oh my god, here's all the context I missed out on. This is very important.
So the other thing I hate about Kingdom Hearts 3 is they did my girl Naminé wrong. Like,
I mean, she was
I know.
hardly in it. Like, oh,
yeah, exactly. That's the point.
Right. Okay. Yep. Agreed.
That's kind of the point. Like, she got replaced by Shion. Like, that's like the straight up, like, as far as a character.
I mean, even Shion was hardly in there as well.
That is true. But I think, I have lots of feelings about Naminé. Almost as much as I have about Tifa. I'm not gay for Naminé like I am Tifa, because that would be strange because she's a child.
Yes.
But
make sure we make that distinction now.
To be fair, when I played Chain of Memories originally, I was also a child, so
true.
There is that. But no.
I'm joking. But the Kingdom Hearts, I think the issue with it is that it's now reaching the point where Disney it just feels tacked on.
Yeah.
And I would actually love to see it, because like the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, I was like, oh my god, yes. And I was like freaking out and stuff. I loved it. But then throughout the whole game, I was like, okay, yeah, here's Pirates of the Caribbean, okay, Monsters, okay. Like, it was just it was dragging it out, and
how
I was
much
like,
can we force into this that people love? And
and it just wasn't fun. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I didn't have fun.
I had fun playing it generally.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the combat and stuff, but yeah.
I felt like every world I went to in that game, I had to learn a different gameplay style.
Yeah.
Which I hate. And one of those things is spoiler alert, I for the most part don't have a lot of feeling in my hands anymore. In 2011, I caught swine flu. So hi, I'm going through my second pandemic. It really fucked up my nervous system. So I operate a lot on muscle memory in my hands. If they're not hurting, I just don't feel them. So it was one of the reasons I kind of stick to console games and PlayStation games, is because that is what my hands are familiar with. But I like trying to learn how to play. It felt like I was learning how to play a different game with every world that I went to. And like it wasn't fun, because all of a sudden at 33 years old, Kingdom Hearts was not accessible to me. Like, and that upset the shit out of me. Kind of ordeal. But I'm not salty whatsoever. I'm just salty as fuck.
It's just one of those things that especially going forward, we could be probably a little bit more mindful of when developing games. There's been a few, like The Last of Us 2. I don't know if any of you have seen we spoke about it in the last podcast, but the accessibility options for The Last of Us 2 were insane. And obviously, going forward, Microsoft have been working on a controller as well. So, but yeah, I think it's definitely something that we need to, in the industry, think about a lot more, especially if you're going to be switching things up or, changing mechanics on the fly. It seems like that. It's just not, doesn't sound fun.
No.
Right. Well, I suppose if we're ready, we could move on to our first news topic of the show. Do we need a quick bio break, or are we good?
I legitimately just peed.
Okay, no worries.
You know what? Let's just do it again, just in case.
Okie dokie. So we will be right back. Stick around. Don't go anywhere, and we'll catch you in a bit. Hey, folks. Thanks for sticking around. We are back from our little break. So, I suppose I should give some form of disclaimer before we move into our news topics today. We've got two big news topics where we'll be discussing accusations of racism and sexual misconduct. I think that's possibly all I need to say, but just as a sort of, I suppose, a trigger warning to anyone who may be affected by any of these issues. We just want to let you know that we are going to be discussing those topics. moving.
And also
forward.
general misogyny as well, if that's a content warning that people need.
Absolutely. So, we would love on this podcast to just talk about the awesome things in video games. There's been a lot going on, especially the last couple of months with the Summer Games Fest, and this month especially, there's been some awesome announcements with Xbox and other companies announcing all sorts of nonsense over this sort of like holiday summer replacement E3 period. But unfortunately, people in the industry have got to be arseholes, and we need to talk about it because it needs to fucking stop. So, to kick things off, our first topic, we're going to talk about accusations of racism aimed at Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast, obviously being the big company who own, create, produce the infamous, well, I suppose infamous, probably little known, you may have heard of it, Dungeons and fucking Dragons. Also,
I have no idea what that is.
Also, the tradable card game Plastic Crack Magic the Gathering.
Card crack, dude. It's card crack.
Josh is a recovering addict.
Yeah, that's on the back of my arm to prove it.
So, earlier this month, a creator online by the name of Orion Black, otherwise known as Dungeon Commander, let out a big tweet longer in which they expressed their experience working for Wizards of the Coast, particularly in the Dungeons and Dragons department of Wizards, and their experience working with them as a person of colour. Suffice to say, they didn't have a very positive or good experience working for Wizards of the Coast, citing in their tweet longer, which you should definitely go check out. I'll link it.
I'm going to quickly link it in the chat now.
Thank you. I'll also link it in the show notes for anyone who's listening as well. Basically talking about their experience and how they believe that they were a diversity hire, but not respected within the company as a person of colour. Dungeons and Dragons over the years has come under, I suppose, fire, but also, I don't know if fire is the right word, but under a lot of criticism over the years from marginalised groups saying that this isn't quite right within Dungeons and Dragons. It'd be better if you change that to make it more accessible, more open for everyone, because that's what the hobby is. It is for everyone. And just people expressing things that the company could do better to be more inclusive, more welcoming, and just a well-rounded, better game and experience for everyone. Orion Black was obviously put into this company and was attempting to make some of those changes from within, but experienced harassment, disrespect, and just wasn't listened to at all. It began to affect their mental health going forward and make them doubt their ability as a creator and as a writer in the tabletop role-playing space. So, yeah, I suppose we'll open it up there now there's a little bit of context. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Whatsy's a fucking mess, man. Watsy has been a mess for a long time, and it really bums me out as well, because actually, like, at least the communities that I'm involved in or have been involved in, both in the Magic arena and the like D&D side of things, have been super, like, community-wise, been super nice and super inclusive, and I've never had a bad experience at a table that I've been at. And it's really frustrating that the community is like so open, so diverse, so accepting, and it's just not backed up by the bigwigs at Watsy. And it's just very frustrating to me.
So, for context, I'm a real noob. What is Watsy?
Watsy is the acronym for Wizards of the Coast. Sorry,
Okay.
that's years of Magic the Gathering coverage. That is of like watching. Yeah, Watsy, Wizards of the Coast. And like something to point out in Orion's article as well is that they say about actually like on an equal playing field in terms of like their co-workers, lots of them were very supportive, and it's actually the like no surprise the management that is the issue. And even though like they were working kind of in that like space with their like peers, and their peers were like pushing their ideas as well and helping them push their ideas. Because they were from Orion, it just seemed that the management just didn't want to know.
Mm.
And it's just like, why? Well, I know why, because they're a bunch of fucking racist dickheads, but like,
it's a form of gatekeeping too, right? Like it's just like one of those things where there's just this huge disconnect I find from the wizards themselves and the diversity of the people who play their games, right? There is like, sure, there are still those people who are like part of this old guard and this old school, and they still want to like relate orcs to black people, which is ridiculous. It's a fantasy race. Like, stop. Like, stop.
Just
stop. Sort of thing. Or like, you know, having like these monster races with dark skin that are also human races, like drow, and like their problematic stuff that goes on. And there are just some people who are just so stuck on like the wizards and the Gygax lore that they don't want it to evolve with the people who play it. And when it comes down to it, you can play your role play happy, pretendy, fun time games however you want, despite what even the creators say.
Just jumping in real quick as just a real good example is that for a long time, well, I say a long time, like Roll4 is like we're now in double digits in terms of episodes, but for like 9 episodes or 8 episodes, we had a drow PC, and it was just like they were cool as hell. Like they were just any other dude. They were come from like a smuggling crime ring, and it's just like the fact that they were drow had nothing to do with it, really. It was just like you don't have to equate like drow be bad. Do you know what I mean? Like you can do whatever you like outside of the, do you know what I mean? Outside of that lore, like you were saying. And there is like living examples of that. Like, you know, Keyjaw's a really good example of that as a character.
I currently play a half drow on my Wednesday night games for Revenge of the Gith High self-blood. And there are some, and the thing is, it's like you can adapt because it's fiction, it's not real, it's play pretend, right? You can adapt certain aspects of like the original culture, like the fact that drow are matriarchal in nature. Like you can adapt that. You can still adapt. You could still say that there's just like a huge population of drow that worship Loth, and like Loth is a lawful. I believe she's lawful evil.
I think she's chaotic evil, isn't she?
Or she might be chaotic. I'm like, I don't know my complete Dungeons and Dragons lore, guys. Oh man, I don't deserve to be here. But like, you know, and that kind of like you can still like have that, right? But like to only say that they're that is where the problem lies. And I think that was a lot of stuff that like Orion, what they were kind of trying to work about is like some of these the problematic depictions, blah blah blah, of like monster races versus the non-monster races in Wizards.
And I think that's what from what I've seen of progressives, should we say, in the tabletop role-playing space, is that they're not saying that these races are inherently bad, but it's what's the sort of problematic or the stereotyping is the racial benefits and stats that they naturally come with. That,
it's like
for example,
always evil or whatever.
That say drow are always evil, or prevent orcs from being anything more than just brutes, basically. So it's more changing that aspect of it and making it open. That I think one of the things I've seen is giving people like an ancestry. So you can still play your barbarian orc if you want, but you could also play like a really intelligent spellcaster or whatever, and you won't be penalized because you picked that race. And I don't see that there's more options for you. There's more options for you. So what would be inherently wrong with that? Because you can still have it both ways if you want, but it kind of takes out those very stereotypes and sort of old-fashioned views of these races. I think one of the things I also saw was that Tolkien was one of the people that really sort of set the standard for orcs.
Yeah.
And I think, if I read rightly, he based orcs and their sort of culture from a real racial bias that he had, especially at the time.
Against the Turks.
Sorry?
Against the Turks.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that racial bias that sort of came into their creation. And it's not a case, yes, they're a fantasy race, absolutely. But it's making sure we know where things originate from and making sure we're not still perpetuating those same stereotypes and just do better.
Yeah.
It seems wild to me also as well. Sorry, just on a little side rant. It's wild to me that because of before Explorers Go to Wildemount came out, basically they fixed orcs in that book. They made them so they weren't you basically you had a negative to wisdom and intelligence before or something as an orc. You had you couldn't be clever, you had to be strong or whatever. But I always thought it was really weird that in the old version of the old version of orcs is that you'd really struggle to play a druid. And I think that being an orc shaman is super iconic. That kind of if you wanted to play a tribal spellcaster or whatever, a shaman is or a druid is a really cool thing to do, and they'd struggle to do that because they'd be stacked. They'd have that -2 to start with.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed I don't understand people that are just boot my lure, and it's just well, hang on, just fucking let people play what they want to play, and also not perpetuate racial stereotypes. Don't be a dick.
Today there's a lot of white people talking about this.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, I'm not holding us accountable, but what does our friend have to say?
What do I think? I mean, it's interesting. When like you said, Tolkien based orcs off an actual race, that's where things get iffy, and it's no longer really a fantasy at that point. And I feel maybe there just needs to be some slight evolutions. So I'm very inexperienced with Dungeons and Dragons. I've never even played a game of it in my life, but I get the general gist of it. And if you pick a race, then you get basic perks and basic negative effects.
Yeah, you can do.
I feel I mean, I don't know if there are classes. Maybe just have classes instead.
There are classes, but they
in addition to the races.
Yeah, so you'd be an orc, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got a bunch of stats. So they say that you're clever, or you're wise, or you're strong, or you're quick, or whatever. And basically the orc ones before the Wildemount book came out basically said that orcs struggle to be wise and intelligent.
Right.
And that's kind of a problem. If they're kind of been perpetuated on a racial stereotype.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't see a problem with it as long as they get other benefits. You know what I mean? I can see a problem with it because it is somewhat based off real life, but it is still fictional. I feel the main focus needs to really be on actual discrimination in workplaces and stuff like that, because reading her story, I might have their story, sorry, that is troublesome to me. That's more the issue I think needs to be focused on. I don't know if you guys know Marquez Brownlee, but he spoke out during the whole Black Lives Matter protest era, which should always be going on until there's equality. And he was saying that he's followed a similar issue where he would be in a room and he would be the only black person because he's a YouTuber around technology. And he would sometimes wonder if he made it to where he is because of purely the color of his skin. And that's similar to what Orion went through. They felt as though they were just a POC hire, basically.
Yeah.
And they had things said maybe they just hire the best person for the job instead, or something like that. It's
I think that was a comment that they made saying that basically the white guy they hired in the management role said, like, quote, didn't know shit. And then they were saying that I never want to hear the phrase, well, maybe they just hired the best person for the job again.
Yeah.
Because obviously that person doesn't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I do agree that maybe because it was based off real life stuff, things need to change, and maybe don't just outright say, okay, all this race are stupid or whatever, because that's like in real life, that's also just really messed up. Like maybe give some random chance or some probability to it instead. Even then, it's still kind of on dodgy ground. But then the issue is if you take all that away, like, I guess you lose a game element in that sense. So how would you replace that?
Well, everybody else only gets positives.
Oh, okay. And
do you know what I mean? So like
okay,
elves are very good at being quick or whatever, but like
then just give
orcs
them
definitely
a
had
positive.
a negative.
Yeah, then just
I would like to point out that kobolds also have negatives. I think that's the only other one. And I think that's like the thing is not. I'm perfectly fine with certain races having advantage in being stronger.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with certain races having an advantage on being charismatic, like the drow. My issue does definitely come with like, and Shinobi just was telling us goblins do too. So again, all tiny monster races.
Well, in that case, just give them positives, and then if you want to be like, if you want to be, not penalized, I guess. What's the term? There's actually a better term for
that's pretty close to it. Yeah.
Then choose a class, maybe a class that has no special buffs, like I don't know, the regular citizen class, if that's a thing. Then just pick that. If you want to like disadvantage yourself purposefully, then let everyone else be the wizards and what have you, and you just pick I'm the normal person.
Just Joe average.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, you're absolutely right, Gold. Like, and this is one of the things that on social media, sort of publicly, Wizards have kind of been pushing as well. They've kind of ignored the in-house racism, brushed it under the carpet. They gave a little apology to Orion publicly on Twitter. But for the most part,
I think calling that an apology is generous.
It's in the same way that Blizzard apologized for the Blitzchung shit. It wasn't an apology. It's let's save some face and put something out on Twitter. But for the most part, they've just brushed it under the rug and said, we'll sort out the issues that we have with drow and orcs and everything like that, which yes do need to be addressed, but certainly, like you said, not as much as the in-house bullshit.
Yeah,
that's happening.
That's actually happening.
Because this isn't the first time as well that there's been allegations of these types of things within Wizards of the Coast. Like quote here, people of color can make art and freelance, but are never hired. D&D takes what they want from marginalized people, give them scraps, and claim progress. Quote there from Orion Black from from their tweet longer, and it's true. They especially freelancing. I know as an actor, freelancing has its own issues where you can get sort of taken advantage of and not quite paid properly, but made even worse by the fact that you're doing this to marginalized groups and people as well, making them feel even less appreciated, less warranted, or less wanted within your company, and it's just disgusting.
I think it's really, really strange with WotC as well, because it's almost like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Because there was a big blow up, like on the Magic side of things, a couple of weeks ago. Well, I say a big blow up, but like basically they said like we are no longer working with like X artist because they have links to like far right extremism. And it was just like they just said like no, we're not doing this anymore. Like fuck that. And so it's really strange that sometimes that they'll actually come out and like actively say no, this thing bad, but then on the same on the other side, the other corridor,
there's discrimination going on in the
Yeah.
same building. Yeah.
But also, I mean, also there was an article I think in the show notes about Magic as well. Like Magic's no spring chicken either. Like,
Yeah, there was comments that when they were developing a new set for the Magic game was sort of based on Indian mythology. They one of the
it was an artifact construct. It was a 7/11 creature.
Yeah. They wanted to put a little description in there that said something along the lines of convenience, which was sort of making a joke out of those of the Indian community who work in convenience stores, which was totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
But it was, in-house, laughed at, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we can't do that though. And it's not acceptable to even joke about. Let alone think, oh yeah, we could put that on a card, right? It's just
that's just the iceberg with the issues that I have with Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Can we also just mention like they had like a Catholic Church level scandal of pedophilia as well? Like there's also that.
Wow.
So like there's just a lot of issues that come with these companies, especially in nerd companies, like I say, like quote unquote nerd geek companies, like fandom and things like that, that I definitely learned as I got older. Because like when you're like just a little nerd kid, right, like just trying to find friends that like the same things that you do, and then it's you just want to be friends with people who also like Dungeons and Dragons, and then all of a sudden it's like this entire like conspiracy of like, wow, the things that I fucking love and the things that I've made like my closest friends that I met my spouse on like has issues, and it's y'all can't see me on the podcast because you don't have a video, but I'm making a face.
She angry, guys.
But that's
She
it
mad.
as well. It's that Orion made reference to a couple of months ago, obviously when the Black Lives Matter movement blew up again, and all the social injustices that are going on around the globe with BLM, and making point that Wizards as a company made a statement. Let me just find the statement if I can. Oh no, won't open up for me for some reason. But anyway, they made a post in support of Black Lives Matter, and when you've got all the other shit going on within the company, and you're making a statement saying we support Black Lives Matter, we support black people, people of color.
Do you want me to get the statement, Rob? Sorry, I've got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want it.
Yeah.
So it says, so this was from the D&D official verified Twitter or whatever. We stand in solidarity with those fighting racial injustice. We support those who are using their voices to affect systemic change, making their communities better places to live, and invest in the citizens and leaders of tomorrow. Wizards of the Coast will be making charitable donations to the NAACP Legal Fund, My Brother's Keeper Alliance, and Black Girls Code. We encourage those of you who can to donate, support, and engage with the organizations, with your community, and with each other. That's the statement.
Well, at least they donated.
But I just wonder how much of it is just performative, like activism.
It's all performative. If you've got, I literally was speaking about this on another podcast as well, because it's very easy for a company with lots of money to just give a bit of money to charity.
I think
That's
it's
easy.
okay.
The difficult stuff and the stuff that actually needs to be focused on is in-house treatment of staff and recruitment, and thinking very thoroughly about how you go about all those practices. And if you're just going to donate to charity and not really, and say you're supportive of this and not really tackle these issues head on, like maybe reach out to Orion and see who in particular maybe was making them feel uncomfortable, and talk to those people and make sure it's clear. Maybe update your diversity and inclusivity like statements for your company. That sort of stuff is really important. Good that they did donate to charity, but at the same time you need to work on yourself as well. you know.
Yeah. Christiana, is it Christina or Christiana Ariel? She's like one of like like their like players. She's a black woman. She's fucking awesome, by the way. She's involved in a project called Sirens with Satine Phoenix amongst a bunch of other stuff. But she was saying like, you know, it's cheap talk. Like they've got a position open right now for like a diversity and equality like manager. It's just like just put a black person in that position. Do you know what I mean? Like it's because then you can start affecting change on like a managerial level, which seems to be
the issue,
a problem. And having that voice in the room surely has to help.
And
it's not just having those voices, it's listening to those voices too. And I think like that's like the issue is that like, you know, Orion was put in there as a diversity hire, which is problematic in itself, but like to not listen to them, it's not value their input, despite the fact that that was essentially their role from what I understand. Like that is like the biggest problem. It's saving face to be like, oh hey, look at us, we're diverse and we're open and stuff like that. It's not like it's all just like the cover. It's not the actual culture of the company, and that is inherently the issue.
Yeah, changing company cultures is difficult, I guess, but I mean, it shouldn't be difficult if it's around basic like human rights subjects. So yeah.
I mean, I lived in Washington for a little while, in the Seattle area even, and I'm actually not surprised. So small disclaimer, I'm from Louisiana originally, so I am a very, very visibly white. My mom is native, but as far as like what you see with me, it's I am pasty, blue eyes, brunette, like I'm white. Like there's no question about that. But like my naivety in that I would, by leaving the South, that I would escape racism. Like, boy, did leaving the South kind of blow my mind. And the fact that it's everywhere. And like Washington State, where Wizards is located at, has a high population of white supremacists. I think maybe the highest in the country. Like, especially when you go east of the Cascade Mountains, it's like, oh, this is no thank you. So like it's not like too surprising in that manner that there is like a culture, and I mean everything is just white culture predominant to begin with. Like, let's be legit here. Like it's colonization, especially in North America, like especially fantasy and nerd culture, it's just
whitewashed.
It's whitewashed, yeah. So I'm like not surprised that the culture and that people want to hold on to that because they feel like there's like a weird ownership over it, but they don't. Like nobody owns a culture. Well, that's weird to say because you know there's cultural appropriation and all of that, but you know, like when I say like culture, I mean like not like a culture based on like your ethnicity, more of like just a culture.
Not like a racial culture, as in like a like
like
sports or gaming or whatever.
Exactly, like things that human beings have just come up with for all human beings,
like a social culture almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, like, I'm fucking bored. I'm bored of myself. I'm bored of seeing me in everything. Do you know what I mean? I've been represented for how long? Fucking done with it. Can I see something else? Please, give me something else. I'm bored.
Literally anything but a white person.
Literally anything but a white male, please. A white straight male, sorry. Like anything. Fuck it, anything.
A grizzly white man with a beard. It's kind of like and is typically classified as some sort of fighter type. Yeah, yes. No, it's like I don't think it's bad to continue to have like straight white male protagonists, but to have that as like the only option that people see now,
Yeah.
is like, I understand like context is where like you're making a game where it's in Eastern Europe or whatever. It's like you're probably in the 1500s. You're probably not going to have
Oh yeah. Don't
sub-Saharan
change
Africans
history,
there.
please.
Yeah,
Please.
you're probably not going to
Don't
have sub-Saharan Africans. Like, let's
yeah,
be legit.
exactly. Like
that's
don't make it
understandable.
ridiculous now.
Yeah.
But like maybe diversify locations or whatever, because there's always like there's always castles in like medieval times. That's pretty common.
And then when it comes down to it, like it's still just video games, right? It's still just games. So it's not, if it's not a white dude where only white people were supposed to be and only supposed to be doing something, and people are taking a creative license, who cares, kind of thing, right? Like, it's just, even if you're retelling a classic story, like one of the weird things that it brings up, my mom and I were watching the BBC Merlin, and the character who played Guinevere, the actress is black, or she's at least mixed. And my mom was like, were there black people at that time in England? And I go, Mom, it doesn't actually fucking matter. It's fantasy.
In
Yeah.
fairness,
Yeah,
though,
Mom, was there a
were-
dragon?
Were there also dragons?
In
Like,
fairness, though,
were there wizards, Mom? Like,
there were a lot
in
of
that context, like, who cares? like, but it can mean a lot for someone to have someone that looks like them as a
It
hero.
means so much.
Yeah,
Representation is huge. It really is.
Absolutely.
I was literally just
saw-
about to ask you that question about like over the last couple of years we've had a lot more like a lot more like starting kind of like I guess like Black Panther was the big like marquee start of like more black representation. Like over the last few years, how have like how
I mean, I love seeing it. For me, I personally, I don't mind if I do or don't see representation, but I do know how important it is and how good it is to have representation. And for example, I saw someone play The Last of Us DLC with Ellie, and she when it was revealed, when Ellie and spoilers, Ellie and Riley kissed, she had to pause the game and she started crying because she was lesbian, and she was like, if I saw this when I was a kid, I would have been so much more like comfortable with myself and stuff like that. And it's so important. It really, really is. And like the Black Panther movie, I can see for some kids, like they would like, oh, I could be a superhero as well, sort of thing. And it's, especially when you're a kid, representation is just hugely important. And even as an adult, like I'm trying to make Sims. I hate games where you can customize your character sometimes, because like sometimes the option is just not there for me. Like my hair is not there sometimes, and I'm like, okay, this is whatever. I'll just deal with it. But
and sorry.
yeah. So you go. I'm done with my rant.
Not just like representation, but correct representation.
Correct. Yes. 100%.
I can kind of relate to this a little bit. Again, hi, Louisiana. I'm ethnically Cajun. And there is no actual correct representation of Cajuns in media with the exception of the Firefly from The Princess and the Frog is the most accurate representation. Mafia 3 I have not played Mafia 3. I just kind of watched you. Or just the representation of like that cultural melting pot that is that particular area of the United States. So it's not of the same frustration that obviously like people of color go through. But there is a frustration of being part of probably the most American born culture in the country that derived from a mixture of like francophone slave culture, sharecrop culture, like the food, the music, it all comes from that, and not have like proper representation of that. Like I
Mm.
can understand of just like no one is just like, oh, a prime example is Gambit. Like everyone is like, Gambit is the Cajun. There is nothing Cajun about Gambit. He does not even have the right accent. Okay, now listen, I'm about to get into my Cajun accent right now, so you ain't gonna even. Ooh, no, no. Like I love Gambit, but he's also not Cajun. New Orleans is not Cajun. Like, so I can understand that frustration of just like having like correctness
Misrepresentation.
and that
Yeah.
like fuck the water boy. Like fuck the water boy kind of thing, because it's just like cool, like you just assume that everyone who speaks Cajun French and lives in this area are just a bunch of fucking like swamp rednecks essentially. And no offense to my redneck friends, I understand that there is a lot of intelligence in that culture as well, but just stop, just rawr,
Yeah.
rawr.
Yeah.
Just stop.
100%.
Just
Yeah.
to bring it back to Wizards, if I may.
Sorry.
Is it worth? I don't want to sort of stay on this for too long. But is it worth mentioning Mike Merles? Just in terms of, it kind of seems like Wizards in general, and Wizards isn't the only fucking company, seems to have a real inherent problem with all sorts of misgivings and nonsense.
I sort of compared the Mike Merles thing with them essentially lying about him leaving the company to just really shifting him.
Sorry, Rosie,
again,
would you mind giving us a bit of context for the Mike Merles, if you don't mind?
Oh my god, I don't know if I'm the best person to do this.
Just a TLDR.
The TLDR is you had a not Mike, but someone else whose name I shall not mention was essentially sexually harassing some coworkers, if I'm not mistaken, of the femme variety, and they went to Mike at the time, and instead of doing something, Mike actually doxed them to the person that they were complaining about, and because they're friends, and like they were protecting each other. Yes, like it's on something awful.
Hey, shit, dude, it's nasty.
Yeah, it's really nasty. And so like that happened like a year and a half-ish ago, right? And so Mike, they're like, oh, like Mike Merles doesn't like work for Wizards anymore, and it turns out he just got moved to like the game, like the video game section of it, which I don't know if that's like Arena or the new Baldur's Gate that's coming out, as like a consultant. And so like when we all like found out about that, it was a betrayal. And I'm going to again once compare it, it's some Catholic Church bullshit. It's just like moving people around in hopes that like nobody notices, but and then you have so many people within that are working for Wizards that probably knew about it but couldn't say anything about it because of non-disclosure agreements, right? Like I've worked for an animation studio that had non-disclosure agreements, and I think the weird thing is about non-disclosure agreements, it should be about the content you're creating, not about how you treat your fucking staff.
That's that was another thing that was mentioned in one of those articles, that it's just like, I think it was in the Magic one, it's just like you can't speak it, like the second you raise your voice and try to like whistleblow or whatever, they like shut you down like hard.
It's in both. Yeah, Orion makes comment of it, and the other Magic one that you're referring to is by a guy called, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Zaim Beg, as well, who made a big sort of Google Doc information on his experience working with Wizards as well, and essentially saying that if you speak out publicly on Twitter or wherever it is, you get shut down quick, or you lose your job.
And as well as things like losing, like not just like losing your like status within Wizards of the Coast as well, like they'll like wreck your like DCI number and stuff, which means that you can't play like competitively or casually like registered at like a store that does like magic events or whatever. Like if you wanted to go to like Friday Night Magic, which is like a casual kind of knock around, like if they banned your DCI, you're not allowed to play. Like, so you could just go down your local game shop, and because you said no, this is wrong, like they'd go to scan your DCI and they'd turn you away because you're not allowed to do it.
I was on very few.
Yeah, that face is exactly right there, by the way, Gold. Just
that's insane.
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
It's I was on very, very, very few Twitter block lists because nobody knows who the fuck I am, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I was on very few block lists until I just kept that Fire Mike Myrtles tag like in my Twitter, and like all of a sudden I'm like at 100 block list. So even like if you don't work, even if you're just a freaking layperson that like myself who just plays Dungeons and Dragons, like you get blacklisted very easily and quickly. And again, it's just like this disconnect from the company and the people who play their games. Like, what else are we supposed to do? We want to feel safe. We want to feel welcome. As a femme, as a female, as a woman. But like, and I would love to write for TRPGs one of these days, but it's just sort of like, if the culture is to protect abusers, again, bitch, I love Catholicism. Bye.
Done that once.
I dealt 30 years of my life with that. I don't want to do it in like my passion,
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, and this is why we do this. We've only got a small corner section of the internet and a small outreach here. But I personally, and Josh agrees as well. I correct me if I'm wrong here, but we choose to use our platform, this podcast, this UndeadGamingCast, which is a small podcast run by gamers for gamers about video games and the industry in general. It's our duty to call shit like this out and say that it's not okay, regardless of how big or small we are, because this community, whether it's TRPGs, video games, whatever, is for fucking everyone. No matter what your race, creed, sexuality, gender, whatever it is, you are welcome here. This is a wonderful thing that we all love and share together. And to have shit like that coming from, the things that we love, and the spaces and the communities that we love, we need to call it out and try and affect some change as much as possible and say that this is not okay. And hopefully, build something new or improve or change or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And it sort of seems like, Wizards have got a real issue here that they can't ignore, and we shouldn't let them forget or continue to ignore it.
Absolutely not.
Definitely, 100%. And I thank you for doing this, to be honest, because like a lot of podcasts just glaze over it or won't even talk about it, which is bad. Silence is just as deadly.
Yeah, it's complicit. Yeah, silence is compliance. Yeah. But that's like Rob said, though. It's like ultimately, like, we are privileged because we are like the two white dudes in the room. Do you know what I mean? Like, by default, because we are white dudes, people are more inclined to listen to us for whatever stupid reason. And like you say, like, just not actually having a voice on it is as bad as just not doing anything. And that's why we want to try and give like the platform to people so other people's voices can get added to like what we do here. Do you know what I mean? Like Rob says, like, I'm as sick as him as like looking at his face, and I have done for the last like 7 or 8 years. Do you know what I mean? It's refreshing to hear somebody from like a different culture or a different background or like whatever, like come in and actually give us like here as it is from like my end of things. And like actually like thank you to like you and Rosie for coming on, for like actually having these like difficult conversations with us. Because like your input is absolutely invaluable to us. Like we appreciate it.
So should we move swiftly on to our final topic?
Yeah.
Can I pee again?
Of course you can.
P. Rosie P. Right there,
Right,
in the chair.
We'll go on a very...
I don't think anyone is gonna appreciate me doing that, especially myself.
Also, y'all, this is my channel. Like, I ain't getting banned, was Okay, we will be on a very short, quick break, and we'll be back momentarily. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Thank you very much for sticking around. So, it's time for our second topic. It's not getting any better, y'all.
I was about to say, it doesn't get any easier.
It doesn't get any better this side of the this side of the podcast.
Before we jump in, can I just compliment that I'm just so excited that people from the other side of the pond just use y'all regularly now.
I'm awful for it.
Y'all is the best word in the world. It makes me very happy. You're welcome.
It's easier. Yeah.
You mean y'all are welcome?
You're welcome.
I definitely use it far too much. I think
yeah,
my
I do
friends
as
can attest
well.
to that. Like, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like my most used word. Y'all and pals are my two most used words. Pals. Well, it's because it's gender. Pals is gender neutral, which is the reason I use it.
Same. Yeah, that's why I say fam when I address people, because gender neutral.
Okay, weird question. Is dudes gender neutral or dude?
No. I know people like try to use it like gender neutrally. But like I had a conversation with a trans friend of mine and they were like, I just prefer not, because it's kind of like even though people use it neutrally, it's kind of still like a masculine thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I respect you. So I changed to pals and I've been using pals now for forever.
Yeah, I know. Isn't there saying, I don't know if it was from a cartoon or something, but they're like, hi, guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
That's amazing. I'm going to start using that. Guys, gals, non-binary pals. I love that.
I think it was from a cartoon, I don't know actually, but yeah.
That strikes me as some Steven Universe stuff. Like,
yeah, I think it could have maybe been that or Adventure Time. I don't know. Someone said it to me on a stream once, and I was like, "That's awesome! I like that."
It's very good. That being said, I do also kind of agree that I disagree. I agree that dudes is not a gender neutral term, but agree that a good argument that people could use for it is good burger. So
can I take your order?
We'll leave it at that now. We'll start getting into some heavy bullshit.
Wonderful. So, if y'all are ready, let's jump in onto this. So, once again, video game companies are up to their same nonsense bullshit. This last couple of months, it's been Ubisoft, the French company, worldwide AAA video games company, have been at it again. Last month, which is now obviously carried on to this month, there have been a lot of announcements and allegations of serious sexual misconduct and abuses, and not only that, racist accusations or allegations of racism as well within the company, misogyny, nonsense, absolute disgusting behaviour coming from within Ubisoft towards their many employees, and all from higher ups within the company, big execs in the company. And this hasn't been a recent thing. This has been something that for some of these execs has been going on for at least over 10 years. Jason Schreier, who is a journalist, did a really amazing expose on Bloomberg Business Week, which you should go and check out. But FYI, it is behind a paywall. But I think if so your first read is sort of free.
I was about to say, Rob, because I read it earlier and I didn't get knocked out by it.
I think you get so many free looks at articles on there.
Just also as an FYI as well, it's a goddamn long article.
Yeah. But like many of Jason Schreier's articles, is a very good read. Jason Schreier did a massive expose on BioWare last year after the disastrous launch of Anthem and their development cycle there. So he's a really, really good investigative
Everyone's got
journalist.
feelings about Anthem there.
No, I just laugh because I was so hyped for Anthem, and then like I just saw all the negativity here, and I was like, well, I guess there goes my hype. Like I didn't even bother.
Theoretically, it's the sort of game that I should love, and I played the demo for a little while, and I was like, no, sad.
I just had an image of Gold there with his wallet, and then he just saw all of this stuff, and I was like, nope, just puts it back into his pocket.
Just
and walks
sticks
off.
it back in his pocket, yeah.
But nope, gonna keep that. Yes. So, oh my goodness, where to fucking begin? So there have been accusations of numerous sexual misconducts from or by Serge Hasco, who I think I've said right, but I kind of don't care because the guy's a fucking asshole. Who was the chief creative officer at Ubisoft, has got so much wrong with the way he has committed business, doing business meetings at strip clubs, misogynistic remarks, drugging employees with hash cakes that they weren't aware of, playing pornography and inappropriate music in meetings and around the workplace, forcing himself upon female co-workers. We've also got Maxime Balland, who is the Toronto office, or was the interim director of HR, who ostracized women who came forward with complaints of sexual misconduct to him, labeling them troublemakers. Who's also known to be very aggressive and scream at employees, and also, according to a Kotaku article, has been seen strangling a female employee at a work party. You've also got Tommy Francois, who is the Vice President of Editorial and Creative Services, who's openly flirting with subordinates, homophobic jokes, unwanted messages, numerous allegations of abuse. The list fucking goes on and on and on about what these men have done and perpetrated within this industry, and very high up within this company. And it kind of begs the question as well, Yves Guillemot, who is the chief executive of Ubisoft, apparently didn't know about any of this. Apparently didn't fucking know any of it. Bearing in mind he's very good friends with Serge Hasco, who we've mentioned as a disgusting man. And yeah, apparently the chief executive of Ubisoft wasn't aware any of this misconduct was going on until last month.
Which in itself is a problem, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Either exposes his unique incompetence at his job, or the fact that he just didn't give a shit. I'm not sure
Or
what
denial.
is worse.
Yeah.
Or he's a liar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's like that's also an option, is that he is a liar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because for something so rampant to go on in a company and you in a culture, and you not notice that, like, I find that hard to believe. It could straight up just be denial or lying or saving face, which is what I lean into when I look at this story, because it's like, it's there, like the evidence of it happening is there. So how do you stay, like, how are you that disconnected from your own company? Yeah, like
he would know.
You're in charge of taking care of, like, that you don't know, like, that just blows my mind.
And this is it, you're right. This is so rampant and such a culture within this company that it's, like I said, been going on for at least over 10 years at least. And this isn't just a few accusations from a few people here and there. There's been, there's a paper trail of it going for years on, through HR, which didn't fucking give a shit or deal with it correctly at all. There was one reference, was it, I think Nina Stewart, who previously worked as Ubisoft's customer service center. she made a complaint to HR twice about a manager's explicit and derogatory terms about her body and other female bodies in general. That manager wasn't dealt with in the way that really they should have been. They were just moved to a different department.
They were just didn't she first go to the managers, and then they were told to just talk it out with the manager twice.
They were, yeah. And
just talk it out.
Nina wasn't taken seriously until fellow male colleagues also corroborated her story and her claims, and that's when the boss was removed and moved to another department. And she also, very weirdly, received a $200 gift card.
Oh, that can buy all of the season passes for Assassin's Creed.
I'll buy you half an Ubisoft game.
Yeah. They can do all the leap. Oh wait, no, that's BioWare. Never mind.
So you can buy 1/3 of a Far Cry game for that much money.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's just absolute gross incompetence, negligence, and all from, once again, similar to Wizards of the Coast, all from the higher ups here.
Again, not fucking surprised. It's disappointing to hear it because there's a part of you, like, as just someone who just loves games and just loves playing games, you like, it's like, oh, like, how much care do you have to the extent of what goes on to just company culture compared to the product that they put out? And this is like, again, an example of like, because the Assassin's Creed is like the first game where you play a Middle Eastern Muslim man that an anti-hero, but at the same time he is the protagonist, and he's not disposited as like, he's like a true neutral character that has to make morally gray decisions or right decisions and stuff like that. Like, it was groundbreaking, and it was a launch for the PS3, if I remember correctly. So it was like, and for the most of Assassin's Creed, like, that's kind of how it goes. Like, even with Ezio, like, people argue that Sicilians and Italians and Mediterraneans in general are not quite on the same level as the rest of Europe, but like, that's another discussion. But like, and then you had Connor, and you have like and then you had Aveline, who was pushed back for a PSP game. Like, let's be legit here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't an exclusive Assassin's Creed, but it was a launch game for PS3 and
because PS3 came out a year after the 360.
It was one of the it was one of the first games on that on that generation.
Yeah. So it was it's a big deal. I have an Assassin's Creed tattoo. Like, I love Assassin's Creed. Until like there's a weird time until Odyssey, I didn't play Assassin's Creed between like Black Flag and Odyssey. Like, I just didn't care about what was, because they were also pumping out a game like every year, right? Like, that's one that is not good for company culture.
I don't know,
like,
bro. I think game's a strong word. They were more like broken pieces of shit half the time. So
I totally had a blackout, and I was just like, there were Assassin's Creed games between Black Flag and what? And then I remembered, and then I suddenly remembered Syndicate, and I was like, well, I don't remember Syndicate being that bad from what I heard. And then I was like, oh, Unity was in it.
Unity was in that.
Like,
and I guess like the runaround that I'm trying to make is just like, it's once again like a company trying to look good on the surface of their product, but the culture behind creating that product is so toxic that it's like, how do you separate the toxicity from the stuff that made you happy and that expanded how we played games, like how we changed games and how we viewed protagonists, right?
It's a classic case of I mean, there's a few things here, but it's a classic case of trying to separate the art from the artist in that sense. And we've mentioned it before on the podcast, but one example I'll go to is the band Lost Prophets. if anyone remembers the band Lost Prophets, but is it Ian, whoever his name, Ian Watkins, I think
Ian
it was,
Watkins.
is a fucking dirty, disgusting paedophile and is in prison now for that. But and at the same time, I haven't listened to them since then. But they did make really fucking good music. Like their third album, something Transmission, was fucking
Liberation Transmission.
Liberation Transmission.
Lost Prophets were the band that got me into rock music. That album starts and it's a masterpiece, start to finish, and I cannot listen to it anymore. And it's fucking.
And this is it. I mean, if you can separate the art from the artist, like all the power to you. But I think it's important. It's important not to forget certain things. You know what I mean? Like.
I feel really bad as well because like all the other dudes in the band were just like good dudes.
Yeah, except for the one that diddled children.
Yeah, and Brand New is a recent example as well in the last couple of years.
It's way easier to separate the art from the artist when the artist is dead. So let's like when you separate it from Tolkien or Lewis
or
Lovecraft. Yeah, exactly. Because you can criticize and look back on like the culture that it comes from because you're not experiencing that culture as of right now. Whereas like we look at the stuff that goes on with Ubisoft, the stuff that goes on with J.K. Rowling, like these are people who are alive, who are active, who are getting the blunt of the criticism as they fucking should. But it's, and you have people who will defend them because they are alive. Like, and they're not defending it's the idea or the art, like they're defending the person, and it's just like this Ubisoft shit though, it makes me very upset because I'm very excited for Valhalla, especially after Odyssey, because I loved the shit out of Odyssey.
And this is it. I'm also was very excited for Valhalla. I fucking love Vikings, and I was hyped for it. But this is something that isn't just exclusive to within the company and to their female staff. This is a general how they view women. For years they were saying women don't sell games, hence why we can't have a female protagonist in any game. Certain developers had to work very, very fucking hard for years for them to even consider putting in Evie in Syndicate and Cassandra in Odyssey. Do you remember when
Aveline came before all of them too? With her game, which was a PSP exclusive. Before it was moved.
It wasn't,
but it was a secondary game, right? It wasn't like
it wasn't the main. Exactly.
And this is, did you remember when Unity was released and they had like that online functionality? And people were saying, well, why can't I play a female assassin? And Ubisoft were giving it all the, really hard to animate, we can't do it, it's this, that, and the other.
What?
Yeah, do you not remember that?
Can't see honestly, my eyes roll.
Literally,
I fully just like dissociated with like as far as that game is like just like
they fully tried to pull that shit, and then
which is absolute bullshit because you talk to anyone who fucking animates or you talk to anyone who draws and arts. Females are way fucking easier. Like, one, we're cuter. No offense, guys. But, like, in general, like, the only thing that's hard to animate, especially at the time, that may have been, like, an issue would be the amount of hair if you had people with long hair. Because hair was an issue. It was one of the reasons why we're going back to Final Fantasy VII here for a quick hot second. In Advent Children in the movie that they cut off Tifa's hair and they didn't have characters like the dog lion Red 13 and because he had too much fur and it was just like hair is hard to animate, like especially just 10 years ago hair is hard to animate.
They stick everybody under a hood.
Yeah, exactly. You stick everyone under a hood, you could put their hair in a bun, like you could just give them short hair. But that's not an issue. So it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
But then literally a year later, we have Syndicate, which then has Evie. as a protagonist. Well, she's a protagonist, but there's more to that. And then they were claiming and basking in the wokeness of look, we did it. There's a woman in this game now. Aren't you proud of us? Aren't you pleased that we did this for you?
Once again, performative wokeness, though.
Absolutely, and her role was significantly lessened compared to her brother, right? And originally in Assassin's Creed Origins, they were going to kill off Bayek fairly early on in the game and have his wife be your main protagonist for the rest of the game. It would have been awesome. But did they do it? Did they fuck? They changed that because someone at Ubisoft said, no, women don't sell. We don't want that. We only want male protagonists.
Because Horizon Zero Dawn did real bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So bad. Just so badly, that game. Didn't sell anything at all.
Women don't sell video games, but Horizon Zero Dawn, have you heard of Tomb Raider, Metroid, The Last of Us, a myriad of other fucking games that also have female protagonists. One of the biggest games of last year has a female protagonist, Control, which got rave reviews across the board.
Life is Strange?
Life is Strange, yeah. Like, there's so many, and women don't sell. And this is it. When companies say shit like that, it's not based on anything. It's literally, you can't be fucking bothered, and you don't give a shit.
Just laziness.
Yeah.
It's also still the thing where there are still groups of people out there for some fucking reason that women and femmes and non-binary people tend to not play video games as much as cis dudes. So it's just sort of like untrue whatsoever. And like, don't get me wrong, there are certain games that I don't enjoy. Anything in first person, I really just pass up because I don't enjoy first person games whatsoever. I also don't enjoy a lot of, despite being a huge RPG fan, I don't play any multiplayer games. When I've never touched WoW in my life. I was really salty about Final Fantasy 11 because when you have 56k internet, and that was your only option,
it weren't worth it. It weren't worth it.
It wasn't like you couldn't. And as a teenager, not who had money to pay a subscription, I didn't. So I was very salty about that, and I think maybe that's my main reason to not do it. But also, it's just like we play games, and we obviously play games like Assassin's Creed, or Child of Light, or heck, even like the freaking Naruto games. Like, hi, I'm a weeb. We play those. But like the games that non-cis dudes play are just as diverse as the games that cis dudes play.
Yeah.
Like, we have preferences. But that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I'm a woman, that I have preferences over, Final Fantasy over COD. Sure, COD does have very much caters to like a male audience. Like, don't get me wrong, but I know women who love COD, who love first person shooters. That's like their thing, and that's fucking great.
I will say that I think first-person games in particular are coming along a lot better. Like Overwatch, when it came out, freaking the diversity of that cast was pretty freaking awesome and something to really behold. And even like Valorant now, which came out, I think it's about 50-50 women and men, which I love to see. It's interesting. You said Unity didn't allow you to play as a woman, and in multiplayer, was it? And but Brotherhood came out before, and you could play as a woman in that. So really, I actually didn't know that you can play as a woman. That's really stupid then.
But it also just shows the nonsense they're trying to pull. And Shinobi just mentioned in the chat that Serge Hasco basically had so much power within the company that he could obviously get away with all these abuses for years and years and years, but he also had so much power within the company that he could greenlight or completely change and alter any game he fucking wanted to at a whim, because that's how much power he had. And he is the reason that Ubisoft have gone down this copy and paste formula for fucking every game that they have, every IP they have, of like the open world, the watchtowers, all of this, that, and the other. And it's what he says goes, basically. So it's very telling as to what they've allowed to do and create based on what he says. And like you said, if you play as a female in Brotherhood, then where's the carryover? What's going wrong somewhere down the line?
We had that big argument. Well, I say a big argument. We were both in agreement. It was a big rant. It wasn't an argument when all the Valhalla bullshit happened, and we were just like, one of the historically one of the most famous warriors who was buried historically, and they've discovered, was a woman. It's not like women weren't shield, shield maidens were a thing and they were fucking badass. It's almost like at the point where it's especially with the Assassin's Creed, it gets to a point where it's historical erasure a little bit, to say, oh well, Vikings were only white male dude. Well, we're just dudes. Do you know what I mean? There was no diversity, or
also, strictly speaking, Viking culture, that there was, in that time of history, women had some of the most rights out of any culture or people within, in the world at that time, or were one of the sort of cultures that had. They could own property, they could divorce, that they had far more rights than some of their, other female.
They could also hold men accountable for they could hold males accountable for sexual assault and stuff, as well as part of their women were a very, very powerful group in the history of Vikings, and I think it's doing an injustice to not portray that.
Well, they are going to be portrayed, but the thing is that it was not in the promotional material. Because you will be able to play a female protagonist in Valhalla, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like you were in Odyssey, which, by the way, Cassandra is just the best girl all around. In all video games,
I love her.
Wife.
She is amazing.
A friend of mine who loves Cassandra as well.
She was really, really good.
But I think people only found out about that you could play as a female in Valhalla due to a leak from a special collector's edition where they saw a statue of a female Viking.
Yep.
And that was when Ubisoft were like, "Oh yeah, you can play as a woman too."
Is this before the trailer, the most recent Ubi Forward event thing? Okay, so all that promotional. It's weird as well because Odyssey, on the front cover, you could actually turn it around and the cover had Cassandra on the front.
They did that for Mass Effect 3 as well. You could change the sleeve so you had Shep or Fem Shep.
But wasn't the default always
this is what
John Shepard? Yeah.
Which is effed up, just 50-50. But maybe it's too much.
Women don't sell games, Gold. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Apparently women don't sell games.
Apparently.
There has never been a female protagonist in a video game in the history of video games. What do you want about?
But speaking of Ubi Forward,
I think maybe it's just that Homeboy just never wanted to play games with female protagonists because he didn't buy them and he didn't play them. Clearly, that's how the rest of gaming culture is.
I don't think he really respects women as human beings anyway.
True.
So,
that kind of paints. I think that paints both of our conversations as well. The stuff about WotC and this as well. I think that's a very valid point, and it's just because I find that in kind of nerd communities, you tend to be incredibly inclusive and respect other people for being people and realize that they are valid, or you tend to be I am white boy and only white boy play this game, and there's no in between. And it seems to me that maybe that guy falls into that camp.
Yeah, to kind of continue on to that camp, just in the tabletop scene, I was on Reddit as always, and I think it was RPG horror stories, and there lots of stuff. There was a comment, someone is like, I'm assuming from a guy from the way that they spoke, where they were just like, oh, like, I don't understand why we don't see more female in playing tabletop games and stuff. I'm sure they make excellent role players and stuff like that. And my response was, it's like, honey, we've always been here and we've always been playing. We're just not playing with you. Like, and that's like the thing. It's like, why would we play with people who don't make us feel safe and make us feel welcome and are having fun with it? And it's unfortunate for the people like, you know, this one commenter who just made like an innocent comment or whatever, who does obviously want to play with, you know, a more diverse crowd kind of thing. But it's just sort of like when the company themselves start to gatekeep and only start to cater to one demographic that they think is going to make them the most money, which is ridiculous, because obviously catering to all of the demographics that play with you, like, obviously don't cater to the people who aren't playing with you, but definitely cater to the people that play to you. Like, cater, like, it's just, we just don't play with you. It's that simple. So play with us, but again,
exactly.
Yeah. I don't know, Carrot. Maybe you have some comment on that from a different perspective.
Not really per se.
Okay.
I just hearing all this stuff has made me. I don't know. I was super hyped for Watch Dogs.
The Brexit simulator. The game that Ubisoft have explicitly said is not political, but is blatantly fucking political, because everything is.
I
No politics in our games.
That's my biggest pet peeve. Fully my biggest pet peeve in the universe. It's not political. Everything is political, you fucking moron. Like.
Speaking of more politics in video games, the Ubi Forward event, which you mentioned, Gold, they made obviously I think this was it last week? No, the week before Ubi Forward, their big live stream event where they were announcing all the games coming in their equivalent of their E3 showcase, basically, with E3 not being a thing this year. They made a tweet. For days, they've been making tweets with the hashtag UbiForward, and they made a tweet talking about the allegations, but didn't use the tweet UbiForward, saying that they weren't going to mention any of these allegations in their live stream, saying that it's all pre-recorded, we can't possibly add anything to a pre-recorded video that they've edited using video editing. They can't make a quick little video and edit that onto the edit.
Can't edit at all. Yeah.
Doesn't. Okay. So they are very much like we were saying earlier about Wizards of the Coast, really brushing it under the carpet as much as possible. And Ubisoft, whoever's working for their marketing department is doing a really fucking good job, because as soon as all these allegations hit, they started having loads of leaks for their games. And then Ubi Forward happened, and it's like, look, all these shiny new games that you can talk about. In the same way that last year we briefly mentioned Blizzard again with the Blitzchung and the Hong Kong situation at BlizzCon, where they were like, yeah, we'll mention it and vaguely apologise / non-apology for it. Sorry you feel that way. But hey, look, Diablo 4, Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Ignore all this. You've forgiven us, because look at all
Here's
these
the new WoW
games.
expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's very much the same sort of thing. Anything to not talk about this, but look at our shiny new games. Even though we've got a culture of raping and being terrible people to the women within our spaces, who don't feel safe coming to work, who don't feel safe developing games or making or putting forward their ideas to make this community, this hobby awesome.
And like, I hate to be cynical about it, but there are definitely these people who are on the top of these companies that do this on purpose, specifically to run out female voices, to run out POC voices, because it's just like, this is our world, not your world. Like, it's gatekeeping, and it's ridiculous. Like, they don't want the input of different perspectives when it comes to these things. They don't want women playing their games. They don't want people of color playing their games. And it's just like, first of all, we're capitalist. Why? Isn't the whole point of capitalism to make more money?
Yeah.
And so, like, when you widen that demographic, like, it doesn't make sense, like, from a person with common sense, but I just don't expect. Like,
I would disagree, because I do feel like they want money. That's what they want. And so therefore they do want as many people as possible playing it. But it's just like the culture. It's a culture issue, I guess. If you've got someone that's that toxic, so to speak, and not that is working high up in your company, then things are very difficult to change. Like, you really want to get rid of that person and replace them with someone else in order to really make change happen, or take them on a course. I don't know, but it really depends how much that person is willing to change their views and just be open-minded.
Something needs to drastically fucking change at Ubisoft, because this isn't on at the end of the day. And Yves Guillemot, one of the CEOs, is... I mean, he's not going to lose his job. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is a family-run company. It's run by 5 brothers of the family. Yep. It's a family company. He's not going to lose his job. But what he could fucking do is make some fundamental changes within his company, like we've said. Train it, whatever it fucking is. Get rid of these fucking assholes. Name and shame them. But again, that's still not happened either. I'm just
because he doesn't want it to happen. Like, that's like the thing. He doesn't believe it should happen. And I'm making assumptions on this man because I don't know him personally. But usually, if you want something to happen, you make it happen, right? But especially when you have that much power, when it's yours, when it belongs to you. But he just doesn't want it to happen. Like, there's nothing stopping him. What's going to happen? Like, the few people below him that agree with him, there are people below him that agree with him are going to walk out and, like, not have a job, like, kind of thing. It's like, there are plenty of people out there looking to work for Ubisoft. And it's like, I'm kind of watching chat right now. It's like, we're so cool. Is like, I wish I could support the teams at Ubisoft that make good games without supporting upper management. Exactly. And that also, like, becomes a thing where it's just like, in all of these companies, you just have normal people who are like us and who just love games, who are just making these things because they love it and are powerless to do any sort of change. But it's just sort of like, how, like, to separate that company culture and the owners and these people that run them without, like, hurting the people who have put in. And let's be real, with the animation, gaming, the film industry, like, all of that, like, the video production industry, we'll call it, like, all time is crunch time. Like, like, I worked in an animation studio for a while here in Vancouver. It was constantly crunch time. And you essentially give up any sort of personal life to make these products, to make your art, and for it to be consumed. And I don't want to, like, not support those people, you know, but at the same time, it's like,
it's difficult. It's very, very difficult because, like you said, you want to support the people that are actually doing the work, but not the arseholes that are running the fucking show.
Yeah.
And especially in video games, it's very difficult to try and do. And we're not doing this podcast to be like, you shouldn't buy Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
Do what you want. It's your money and it's your enjoyment. At the end of the day, you're going to get value out of that game because it's what you want. You know, I'm very disappointed and disgusted in Ubisoft, but I'm also quite excited for Valhalla, and that's not inherently a bad thing. No. You know. But
exactly.
As long
no
as...
ethical consumption in capitalism anyway.
Absolutely,
so...
absolutely. But at the end of the day, as long as you're made aware and you understand, you know what's actually going on, just don't sort of be a dum-dum, as it were. Don't be ignorant to it, or don't just try and
Absolutely.
sweep it under the carpet. I just want to enjoy my video games. It's like, you can, but make sure you're aware. And whilst voting with your wallet is a very good thing to do, you know, to make a statement or make change, we've seen gamer boycotts fall by the wayside every fucking time, unfortunately. We can't get our shit together. But what we can do is make sure they don't fucking forget about it. Keep mentioning it. Keep bringing it up. Use that hashtag UbiForward and say, hey, have you sorted out your fucking arsehole people in your company yet? You know, things like that. It's in the same way that...
You see it constantly. Anytime D&D tweets, it's like, cool, that's cool. I really enjoy this piece of content from like Icewind Dale or whatever the new book's called. And then they're like, but hashtag Fire Mike Miles. And it's just like, it is making people
Absolutely.
accountable for it.
And you have to like... Also, you know, like gaming boycotts or whatever, one of the reasons they don't work is because in general, the population who plays video games don't know anything about company culture or things like that. They're just consuming. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of stuff. Like the average person who plays Assassin's Creed and who just enjoys Assassin's Creed, like, doesn't know about, like, listen, I'm in this and I just learned about this like when I received this document. Like, kind of thing. Like I had to, like, whenever you asked me about this topic, like I looked at my husband and I was just like, hey, what's going on at Ubisoft? Apparently some bullshit's happening at Ubisoft.
A fucking
like,
lot of bullshit is happening at Ubisoft.
Like, because I think my Twitter feed is so, but because around the same time, there's just been so much going on in TTRPG world right now that like my focus and like my ability to care about stuff is like focused on that. So that's what my heart and my brain can have. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like,
it's just like,
like I've said, like I get fucking tired looking through Twitter or scroll, especially over the last couple of months, right? And none of this really sort of affects me on like a personal level. It's me trying to be an ally and a good person with, you know, all the stuff that's happened in recent months in 2020, this fucking year that won't stop. And it's I would love nothing more than to bring you guys on, and we will in the future, absolutely, and just talk about Ubi Forward and the games that they've announced. Talk about the Xbox Microsoft live stream they did last week that was like really cool and exciting, and talk about all the wonderful things that are coming. Like 2020 for video games is going to be amazing. We've got a new console generation coming at the end of the year, new games, all this excitement and buzz is happening, but we're talking about this, which needs to be spoken about. But I would much rather talk about the fun stuff, but I can't with good conscience. This needs to be spoken about, and people need to be held accountable for, and companies need to be held accountable for. You know, and just whilst I'm on it, I just want to point out that Serge Hasko, who we've spoken about, is, you know, arsehole. Cecil Cornett, who is the global head of HR, Yanis Malat, who is the managing director of the Canadian studios, resigned. They were not fired. They resigned. The other two gentlemen or pieces of shit, I should say, who have been accused of many sexual misconducts, Maxime Belend and Tommy Francois, still have their jobs, but are under investigation. Just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, but when your friends are investigating you,
exactly.
The people who speak out against them don't have their jobs.
I just want to make that fundamentally clear, and just, you know, put that out there and let people know essentially that they haven't dealt with this at all. Yeah,
no. They kind of hope that it's almost like they're just counting on the world getting worse and that your attention just leaves.
Yeah, something else will come
sort of
up.
Thing. Because, you know, like all the stuff that was going on. Yeah, I mean, that's happened a lot this year.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we were having, like, in TTRPG Twitter, when all this Mike Merle's stuff got resurged, like, immediately after that was the BLM protest and the, you know, in support of George Floyd and everyone else who was murdered. So they're just like, oh, we're just gonna sweep this under the rug. You're not paying attention because you're looking at this new shiny bad thing. We still looking, okay? Like we haven't taken our eyes off of this shit just because like there's something quote unquote worse going on in the general vicinity of the world. And like these companies like count on this, like the general public to just turn an eye for the next worst thing.
It's the news cycle, isn't it? That sort of media news cycle.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the next story will come up, and we'll just carry on and ignore it.
It's wild though, isn't it? It's like, it's fucking, we forgot, what we didn't forget. Obviously, none of us in this podcast forgot. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's amazing how quickly the news moves on from like Black Lives Matter protests. As soon as the rioting calms down, it's still going on. Do you know what I mean? There is still no justice for the people who have been murdered. There have been people murdered since. It is very important, but it's amazing how quick the news has moved on from it because all of a sudden, like, it's because conflict is interesting. Like, and that, it's fucked up.
It's like Slowpool is saying in chat. It's a PR strategy. It's really hard for people to be outraged at something long enough to make a difference. It takes sustained effort to make a difference, and that is exhausting. It is. It's.
And in all fairness, this year has been haymaker after haymaker as well. Like, let's like forget all of our like gamery kind of like our own. Like globally, it's been exhausting to go from like Corona to like Black Lives Matter to the next thing, and it's just like it's been unrelenting.
And that's on top of like everyone just going through their own small
having their
dramas,
own shit.
Having their own stuff. Like I have friends right now that are going through awful times, and it's just like that's where like my energy has to go, is to caring for the people who are closest to me. It's not that I'm not looking at the issues going on in the world. Like I still see them, but like where my voice has to be amplified for or silent for has to go to the people who are closest to me. Kind of thing.
I suppose closing statements, unless anyone else has got anything else to say. It's important we have these discussions, like I've said. It's important that we talk about it, and it's important that we hold these companies accountable. Buy their products, enjoy their products, enjoy your time with them. This is why we all gain, right? That's not a problem, that's not an issue. But just don't forget, and make sure they don't fucking forget either. And also to all of the survivors of all of these abuses, whether it's the racism abuses that we were talking about earlier or the sexual misconducts, everything, thank you. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for speaking out. Thank you for taking that step and letting everyone fucking know. And to everyone else, let's support these people. Let's support these voices and hold people accountable. So yeah, I suppose we moved on to the.
Well said.
Thank you. I try. So
Beautiful.
we will move on then to shamelessly self-plugging and self-promoting ourselves. This has been the longest fucking podcast I think we've ever fucking done.
Really?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But
You're welcome.
I think to be fair, I think it certainly has been since we've had the reboot, because we haven't had two guests like on before, let alone two excellent guests.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
No, you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for spending your evenings talking to us. Like, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Rosie, what do you do? Remind us again, and where can we find you and support you on all the things?
Oh man, so if you're interested in supporting me, I am a TTRPG producer for myself and my friends. I am a non-able-bodied queer femme who does this. I'm an immigrant, so there's like my list of things that are there that hinder me in my job, but I still do it. You can find me on Twitch and on Twitter as Valdrianth. That's spelled as in Vicky, Aldrianth. It's I read a lot of Dragon Rise of Pern when I was 14, and that's where that comes from. So yeah, you can, and I believe as well as my coffee. So if you want to directly donate through my coffee and not just catch me live, when a lot of my donation, like a lot of my stuff, I make equivalent of $2 an hour. So yeah, if you want to come support me and support the amazing people that run games on my channel and play games on my channel and help me create a space where my friends and I can just play RPGs together and happy pretendy fun time games and all of that great stuff. Please come and check me the fuck out. Come hang out.
I've dropped the links in the chat if people are watching the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Gold, what do you do?
Yeah.
Where can we find you? Tell us the things.
Yeah. So I am a variety streamer. I'm gonna throw my basic facts out there. I'm part of the LGBTQIA family, also vegan and from the UK. And yeah, we do variety gaming on my channel. We also get hyper. I won't demonstrate it again. If you want to see it less scuffed, because over a Zoom call it is really scuffed. The audio, I'm sure, was cutting out. So
still fucking rocks though, dude. I love it.
That's great.
Thank you. If you want to see like high quality versions of that, then be sure to head to my Twitch channel. That's the only place I ever get hyper. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. TikTok is a thing I guess I'm trying to do but not failing. Snapchat, all of that is the GoldKarat, and GoldKarat, carrot spelt Karat, which happened to be my initials for my full name, hence why I'm called GoldKarat. Anyways, so yeah, if you want to see Ghost of Tsushima, that's what we're going to be reviewing next. And my YouTube channel is full of, well, I'm trying to make it full of reviews for lots of different video games with the help of you guys, because that's freaking awesome. Too many review channels just have their opinion, which is fair enough, but I'd like to get your opinion in there as well.
That's such a rad way to do it.
I didn't realize you did that. That's a really awesome idea.
Yeah, it's a thing I did like 2 years ago, but they weren't doing too well because I was a bit smaller. And even now they're not doing. It depends how you say well, but I think I just need to work on building a massive catalog of them, and the more opinions I get for the game as well, the better they are, I think. And yeah, hopefully the dream is to be like big enough to be like, can I get a copy of this game? Or pay me to do a review? Nah, that's not a thing. But yeah,
paying creators to. What do you mean paying creators for their time? Like, not a thing. No way.
Well, yeah,
like treating creatives like it's not actually a job. Wild to me.
Don't even get me fucking started.
I think we're all of us are from like creative industry backgrounds. So yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again for having me on the podcast. I've really enjoyed this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Have you about them, won't we?
So yeah, SingularityJosh. Well, I guess we'll give you a shout out. Yes.
All right. Well, I guess I'm here. Like I'm here sometimes. I'm SingularityJosh. Like I don't stream half as much as I should, but whatever. My channel is variety, so I do some art stuff, I do some video game stuff, but the most consistent way that you'll find on my channel is our bi-weekly D&D campaign into Nix, which is like me and Rob and some of my very best pals in the world. We all sit down and play D&D for a few hours, and yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, twitch.tv/SingularityJosh or on Twitter at SingularityJosh.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. And I am the Undead Gamer. You can find me on all of the socials. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Undead Gamer, gamer without the E. You can also find me here on twitch.tv/the Undead Gamer, which you're either here or you just find me there. We stream most days, and we are playing, at the moment, we're going through the Tomb Raider series. We're also playing a little bit of Bloodborne, and seeing whatever else we can add to the mix. Also got a cooking live stream coming up at some point soon, which I need to sort out and organise. So I've been diving into that, which has been fun. So yeah, stay tuned for that. As for the podcast, if you missed the live show, don't worry. You can catch the VOD on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Undead. I couldn't even fucking remember my own bloody thing then. The Undead Gamer. It's all there. You can see the VOD coming up this Friday. You can also, oh my word, if you don't want to watch us, that's fine. I've got an ugly face. These guys haven't, but I do, so that's fine. So what you could do is listen to the Undead Gaming Cast via Apple Podcast or Spotify. Just search Undead Gaming Cast. You can find us there. Also, please leave us a cheeky little review because it really helps us out, and we'd love you forever. That'll also be coming later this week. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Very much appreciated. Sorry it's taking so long, but we've had such a dope conversation. Thank you so much to GoldKarat and Rosie for coming on today. You have been invaluable to this.
Thank you for having us.
So
Yeah, thank you.
definitely have you on in the future. Hopefully to have a much more light-hearted conversation about fun stuff.
Yeah.
That would be cool as well.
Some non-social justice issues, maybe.
Absolutely. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in, watching, listening, however you're consuming this podcast, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.